Thank you, Anna. It's so amazing to be here on the celebrating 1 decade of TechChill. I think who could have believed that we will go so far? TechChill has actually gone through such a roller coaster during these past 10 years. We started out, actually, I'm not sure how many of you know, the first year, 10 years ago, it was actually TechCrunch Baltics. So thanks to Mike Butcher for coming over and doing this first event. And then it changed a lot from a small meetup to an event in person with thousands of people coming all over. And now it's changed again. Now it's an event online at the middle of May. Even though it's called Tech Chill, it's not that chill anymore outside. We were actually very proud of our cold origins. But I think it's one of the testaments on how startups, not just startups themselves, but also startup ecosystems can survive a lot. And I hope that we will meet again next year under even maybe better circumstances and most of all in person. But let's get to the topic. And I already mentioned that I think the ecosystems as well have gone through such a roller coaster trying to help and support the startups this past year during this pandemic. And today with me, I have three amazing people. This is going to be, I think, one of the rare experiences for me on hosting an all-female panel. I think that's a great achievement for us as well. And so maybe we could start with the north, with Estonia. I think this is such an, maybe you can introduce with us your, the initiative that you are heading, because we have already talked a lot today about this fight for talent and the need for talent, which is especially so crucial and essential for this small region where we need this talent for our scale-ups and startups to grow. And I know that you are doing a lot to make this happen. So maybe you can tell a bit more about what it is and how it works.
Yeah, hello everyone. So I'm Karin Kunnapas. I'm one of the co-directors of Podiufy. And Podiufy is a new type of coding school which works without any teachers and any lectures. So we have this self-learning methodology that help with only 24 months helps our students to become full stack developers. And what is really great about this school is that actually it was started because of a need. So it's founded by the co-founder of Bolt, the co-founder of Wise, and some really amazing people from the Estonian ecosystem who saw that there are IT developers coming out from the education system at the moment, but it's not enough. We're still missing thousands of people in Estonia, but also in the Baltics. And so they didn't complain, but they did something about it. And that's how Podiufy was started. And in the introduction, it was said that we had 800 applicants with first 4 days. I think by now we have about 1,400. So it's obvious also that there's a need for IT developers from the company side, but there's also a lot of people who are interested in the field and want to come and study it. And at Podiufy, you don't need any background. So basically, if you're 18 and you have basic education, you can come and study for free at our school and become an IT developer who works at the startup, who works at the more traditional economy, or even like the public sector.
I think that's really great. And maybe, Agnese, I could follow up with you because you're not just on the board of Latvian Startup Association trying to help and support our startups, but you're also working at an edtech startup yourself. So we hear this amazing initiative from our friends up north. What do you think is the best way? How would you kind of describe the situation right now with the talent gap maybe in our Baltic ecosystem, and what is it that we need to do to make it better, to fill in the gaps?
I think that the talent gap that we currently have in the Nordic countries is pretty much similar across the world, where tech is becoming such a huge part of everyone's lives, and so many people want to go into tech, and so many new industries are starting to appear in the tech sector. That obviously for a while we will have this the skill gap for the people who can go into this field. It's an amazing initiative up in Estonia. We do have some of these initiatives in Latvia as well. For example, ROCKIT Tech girls who are helping to also bridge this technological skill gap. And what we are experiencing a lot is we do see that a lot of companies, both more senior startups and established companies, are having their own boot camps where you start to teach people who are just interested in tech, who haven't had experience in this before, learn these skills and be able to enter the job market. So it's kind of a very growing industry. It's not just connected to the usual academic sector where you get to learn these skills. This is becoming a pan thing across a lot of industries.
And I think this is an interesting trend that we see. You mentioned we have ROCKIT Tech Girls, and there are several other initiatives. And what is in common with, I think, with the Jõhvi coding school is that these are non-academic actually initiatives where we see the ecosystem itself trying to fill in the gaps. But I know that you in your day job work a lot with more kind of traditional academic fields with schools and universities. And how would you say, how would you evaluate the situation there? Are they also moving towards filling in the gaps and working towards what the market needs right now? Or are we still far off from that?
I would say that everyone does have the initiative to move towards a more modern way of studying and teaching young kids about technologies. At Estonia, we mostly work with schools, and we help them collect feedback from pupils, parents, and teachers about different aspects of education. And what we see is that a lot of teachers are still trying to understand what is the best approach to teach students, especially in the COVID period, where you notice that different students need to have very different approaches to studying, and distance learning doesn't work for everyone. And if you try to put into this the technological aspect of the whole thing, you see that there are gaps in how many pupils actually have access to those technologies to be able to learn. You have gaps with teachers who don't really know how to use those technologies, but there is certainly progress there. Still a lot of support needs to be provided to both parents, students, and teachers, to support them during the study process. But yeah, I do see that is definitely something that is slowly but certainly improving.
Thanks. And maybe we could move to Vilnius, to ROCKIT. Could you maybe give us a very brief introduction on what is ROCKIT and what it does, and how you work together with the market to help startups?
Great. So thank you very much for having all the Baltic countries here to get like the clearer understanding what also could be the collaboration points in helping to grow the ecosystem. As ROCKIT, we are the home for startups, for companies mainly focusing on fintech and sustainable innovations. We try to build the ecosystem and build community around us to share the know-how through various events, accelerator programs, and become a go-to place for getting the knowledge, for getting the latest news, and finding the right contacts. So we run our physical hub, and we have a community of over 50 companies right now under the same roof. As well, we run around 100 events, community events related to tech, industry news, and fintech yearly. And we encourage partnerships. So one of our ambitions, this is to bring corporates when it's needed closer to the startups, and as well encourage more partnerships between the startups themselves. So it happens in many different ways. We are in the ecosystem for 5 years now, and it's interesting to see, and maybe like the angle bringing to the topic, what I would like to touch upon about the maturity of our ecosystems as such, as we are such a hub of 5 years only, right? The TechChill, when we talk about it, it's celebrating its 10th year anniversary, but it is still, if you compare it with human age, right? It's still a childish period of time, and we still need a lot of time, maybe to mature, not maybe the time wise, but the knowledge needs to come, and the experience is coming with the time towards our ecosystem. So the approach that we provide, this is first of all, work with entrepreneurs, work with people that would like to upgrade their knowledge. Then, you know, that definitely leads to a strong community and something really helping out and boosting the country as such, making it visible, making it famous for startups and open for collaborations. So that's a real brief of, you know, what we do as a daily life.
And I know that you already mentioned, but you have very strong collaboration with corporations, in a sense that you bring together startups with actually big established companies and try to use these collaboration methods to also help the startups grow. So maybe you can elaborate a bit on that, on how you see these large companies being maybe a vehicle for the whole ecosystem to grow, and how that their input maybe helps the startups or doesn't.
Sure. So one of the recent examples when all of us currently talk about sustainability, how to implement it, what to do with it, how to reach certain goals. So the approach that we took, and we are the leaders in knowing the community and building the ecosystem. So how to make a bigger impact and scale the impact from what we already do. And the answer was simple. The startups have their communities, but if we combine these communities with large corporates and the amount of the customers they serve, it triples, or, you know, scales to a higher scale. And what we've decided to do in this particular topic, for example, to launch Impact Accelerator program, where we are not only focusing on growing startups for a short period of time, but as well helping corporates to learn what it feels to be a startup, how to operate, how to do new things together. And we focused on 5 different angles. So it comes from agriculture, it comes from finance, it comes from solar panels, and some others. And we see how these collaborations actually empower those companies to think outside what they are doing in their daily jobs. And it's a great motivation for B2B startups, especially as they get a direct contact, they get a direct lead, and 4 months of intensive time working together and discovering new potentials. What is more, by this, we see that collaboration between startups is getting way more stronger. They are in this together. They know how to start building corporate relations, which is still quite new in Lithuanian ecosystem. And when it comes, for example, to fintech sector, when we talk, how many of you would like to collaborate with the banks? The answer is pretty high. But how many of those partnerships have been successfully developed, and how many wide-known success stories do they have? We can count, not on hands, but these stories are not endless, as in some other cases. So these are just one of type of examples of how these partnerships could be done. But as well, having hubs, having communities, we open doors and act like a neutral zone for the whole ecosystem. So we don't really like the separation, us startups and you bankers and similar, right? So we share the knowledge with everyone. And I believe other speakers would agree with me, when people are reskilling, thinking of upgrading, we're not only talking about those people who are already innovation driven, but we need to think about wider audiences and how to get higher engagements from the circles that are not there yet.
And I'm going to continue this topic of collaboration and maybe get a little bit back to Estonia. I mean, especially compared to Latvia, but also a little bit to Lithuania, we know that Estonia definitely has a very mature ecosystem, and it has a lot of unicorns, and it has, but most importantly, it's not just the huge valuation companies. It's the founders and the management and people who are very much actually invested in the ecosystem. And I think that has, and maybe you will follow up and say if you agree with me, I think that has left a lot of impact. And I think your initiative in the sense of the coding school is one example of that, because as far as I know, it also has a lot of support from the bigger startups there. And I think that's kind of quite an amazing and important achievement, in a sense that if you can get large players from the startup field to agree with the government on a common initiative. And maybe you can give us a bit of a brief story on how you achieve that. How can you bring these two maybe very different sides to the same table to agree on an initiative that helps the whole ecosystem grow?
Yeah, I first want to definitely agree with what Sarune was saying, that I think the community and the people play such a huge role, so that there's different events that people get to know each other and so on. And why Podiufy came to life is that I think in Estonia, thanks to our unicorns that we have by now, we also have founders who have built really big companies and achieved so much. So now that they actually have time to think about how they can give back to both the ecosystem and also the country in general. So they're startup founders who are actually volunteering to go and work with younger startuppers to help them to get through the hurdles that they have already gone through. And so maybe also avoid some mistakes that they have done beforehand. And when we're talking about the cooperation between the founders who founded the Podiufy and also the Estonian government, I think it is a unique kind of cooperation, I would say, that like people who have not built a school beforehand or have worked at a school start founding a school, and the government comes and supports it. But it's an amazing example of what you can actually achieve with this kind of cooperation. So again, it's like if you see a problem, then if you start solving it, and if you believe in it, and if you have enough support, then also like the wider audience will believe it, and the government will come behind you, and you can achieve something really great. And as I said, that we also have quite a lot of startuppers, previous founders or companies, startups who are supporting us. And it's all about giving back to the ecosystem and giving back to the youth, and hopefully educating new young people who will join the ecosystem in the future. So it all comes down to just not only complaining, but trying to give back something to the home country and making it a better place for everybody here.
Thank you. I think that's really a lot of inspiration for us as well. And I'm going to continue on that note and go maybe to our own Latvia. And Agnes, I know that you're from a startup, and right now we have this amazing case where we have the Latvian Startup Association, which by itself I think is quite a unique association. I think it's one of the rare countries where actually we know of that startups have their own kind of group, which is their own. As we know then, for example, in our neighboring countries, it's usually a state organization that represents startups. In Latvia, it's actually kind of an organization built by startups. And right now, all of the board members that are behind the wheel are startups, either from the startup management, including you. So basically, we have startups behind the wheel building the ecosystem. So you already know what's needed, and you know what you need to do to make this better. So maybe you can give us a brief intro on how what is going to be on your plate for what was maybe on your plate for the last year? What's the strategy on how you want to help them? And maybe a bit of because I know all of us we were building very big plans before the pandemic, and then of course this all changed. So maybe you can give a bit of insight as well on what changed for you, in a sense of what you see it's needed, was maybe needed before and is not needed now, as everything has changed, and maybe what are the priorities you see that have not changed no matter what are the external factors right now.
Well, when it comes to startups, the thing that you can always say that a lot of startups need the financial support in order to develop their new products. But from the Startup Association perspective, we have really focused on two things. One is the legislative aspect, how the government can help startups build much faster. And on the other hand, it's the recognition of startups themselves. Because if we were to compare the Latvian startup ecosystem to the one in Estonia and Lithuania, we are still kind of one step behind in terms of we don't yet have that one unicorn who there would be kind of this example that, oh yes, we can achieve this as well, and kind of be that boost to other startups to grow much faster, and for young people to be more kind of interested in joining the startup field. Something that we have been in the association focusing on in the last year was definitely the stock option legislation, which was approved this year, and it will definitely be a huge boost for the growth of this ecosystem. And what we now would like to focus on is kind of building the recognition. So the second part, which is first of all, creating a database of all Latvian startups, because this is something that we also have to do if we want the government, for example, to support the ecosystem and for international investors to be more aware of what is happening in the ecosystem. We need to demonstrate what are the startups that we actually have, how are they doing, how they have grown, and just start to get that huge recognition. And then of course educating people to join the startup ecosystem themselves, because we still want, in order to grow successfully the ecosystem, you need to have more and more startups joining it. And that's why we want to encourage more young people to join startups, and of course have existing startups share their experiences with one another much more often. So that will be a thing we'll cover in different networking events and startup founder stories and so forth. So that would be the two main things we'll focus on currently.
And as we are slowly moving towards the end, I have this kind of one last, maybe a bit of a tough question for all of you, but I will start with you, Agnese. What would you say is currently for the whole ecosystem in Latvia, maybe even the Baltics, but specifically Latvia, the one specific biggest challenge that you see that needs to be fixed as soon as possible for the startups and the ecosystem to grow, and how you see that could be helped?
Talent is still something that is on everyone's mind, how to attract the best talent from all over the world. And I think I'll speak for Latvia in this case. It's amazing that we have the share option legislation in place, but what we still need to do is learn how to attract international talent to our country and learn how to keep that talent here as well, so that they can contribute to the local ecosystem. Because what sometimes happens, you get international experts flying in, they stay here for a while, but they don't really have those incentives to stay for too long. And sometimes I would even say that in Eastern European countries, kind of both the government and society are not always welcoming to foreigners. And I think that is something we should definitely improve on if we want to have that international kind of experience boost in the ecosystem.
I think if there's one thing we have heard today from everyone, and not just this discussion, is that talent is the one thing that's on everyone's mind right now. Sarune, can you maybe say from Lithuania's side, would you agree? What do you think is currently for Lithuania the one challenge you would like to focus on for the ecosystem and to work on?
So I would agree that talent is definitely the most hot topic, and not only how to attract companies, as we have strong investment departments who are bringing new companies in, but then how to bring enough people for those companies to work at. And I'm thinking here we need to take a step back and talk more about education and what do we do to support mathematics, IT, and related skill sets, as when we look into what kind of studies our school students choose, then it's kind of 50-50, right? Humanitarians, and then the ones that would like to explore innovations in a sense. So here innovation is very important, and I would like really encourage not only the Baltic states, Lithuanian education system, but to pilot innovation within schools, train teachers, make it interesting. We have very interesting projects running right now, teaching teachers, right, how to present it, how not to be afraid of innovation, how to present AI solutions during or VR solutions during biology lessons. And this is, brings them closer to the students that are already living on their phones and iPads, right? And not limiting them in a distance. So this would be like a step back, really to see and prioritize. Maybe we are focusing and talking with people which studies to choose too late. And the girls in school, sometimes we didn't touch upon diversity here, but we still have this issue why we have so little female founders, why we have in Lithuania nearly 1 out of 10 ladies choose to go to innovation and to go to maths, to go to such kind of sciences. And maybe the change in the mindset would lead us to greater results if we start from the ones who bring those messages in the first place. So there needs to be motivation, there needs to be resources, and the light in the tunnel. So, right, what's waiting for us there, why we should go. And what I spoke in the beginning, and I'm talking about our ecosystems and the maturity of it, we are all now talking about how to speed up, how to bring more people, how to attract more talents. So recently I found out the statistics that European Union would like to increase the level of innovation industries around 7%. In the Baltics, that's around 16, which is double. And we need twice more talent to boost that in order to keep it up with the growth. So just to complement on the same, that when we talk about money, do we need enough finances? We have enough finances to fund the startups, but we need ideas as well, and we need people to build those ideas.
Thank you. I completely agree. As a historian myself, it's such a very entertaining education, completely useless in a startup ecosystem. Karin, maybe the last question to you. I think you'll probably agree that talent is important since that's your focus. But I think Sarune mentioned a very interesting question about diversity, and I know that Startup Estonia also mentioned diversity as one of their key focuses for last year to increase the level and amount of female founders and females in the ecosystem. So maybe you can give a bit of an insight on how you see this diversity in the context of bringing in more talent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely still need to improve that. I think at the moment in Estonian startups, about 1/3 are females, but when it comes to founders, that number is much lower. Startup Estonia has done quite a lot. For example, there's a new accelerator, Challenger, that's focused on diversity and female founders. There's also new funding options for female founder startups. But I definitely agree that we need to start with education. And we're not talking only about university or people who are already like 17 or 18 and older, but we need to start with younger girls that they understand all the tech fields and they understand that that's actually fun and it's also something for girls. We still have this a bit older kind of mentality that when it comes to computers, when it comes to technology, it's more about boys' fields and that's not for girls, but this is something that we need to change. In Estonia, we actually have a unicorn squad, which is like robotics circles for just girls, and it's for girls up to 14. And my own niece is going there, and it's amazing. With only with just few lessons, she has learned a lot. She has found out that how fun it is actually to code a robot or build a robot, and definitely that will open up her eyes in the future for new career options that she might have not thought about beforehand. So we definitely need to support this kind of mindset already from early on, and talk about the success stories, talk about amazing female founders, how they have done it, and bring some more spotlight on them, because they will be the inspiration for both young girls and also women who maybe want to do something but are a bit afraid. So we need to support this through education, through communication, and giving additional opportunities to diverse founders.
Thank you. And I want to thank to all of our panelists today. Our time is up. I even went a bit over. I hope TechChill will not kill me for that. Thank you so much for joining me today. I think this is the last discussion of the day, but it's definitely not the last discussion for TechChill, because TechChill is just getting started. We will have a lot more content in the next 2 weeks, and I hope to see you there. And I'm going to give the floor back to Anna.